Since the beginning of time, people have always suspected that something was out there in the deepest reaches of space. Some have assumed that aliens are flying around, ready to make contact with humanity. Others fear that a devastating sea of asteroids is rushing our way. While so much is still undiscovered, we have come across some pretty wild things in space. What are some of the strangest things that scientists and astronomers have stumbled upon while searching the cosmos? Some of them are overwhelming, frightening even, and some are just awe-inspiring and beautiful. In today's video, we are going to take a look at the most bizarre things we have ever discovered in the cosmos. If we are touching upon strange things from space, we have to discuss asteroids. Few things are as scary as asteroids thanks to movies, books, and television. Nearly every person on Earth knows we could face immediate extinction if one of these space rocks happens to land smack dab in the middle of our planet. Thankfully, we have been lucky so far, but we have noticed some large, strange asteroids in recent years. One of them was Asteroid 2001 FO32, which came whizzing by our planet at a breakneck speed of 77,000 miles per hour. It came very close to us. Well, close by space standards. The asteroid, which is about 2,230 feet wide, passed us by at a safe range of 1.25 million miles. FO32's speed was unusual and unlike most other asteroids. While all asteroids and comets move quickly, 77,000 miles per hour is lightning quick, even for them. The reason for its accelerated pace has to do with its highly inclined and elongated orbit around the Sun, which is a tilt of about 39 degrees to Earth's orbital plane. The rock picks up speed as it races inward towards the Sun, and then slows again as it heads towards Mars. And yes, FO32 will return to pass by Earth again. It is estimated that the superfast asteroid will head our way in 2052, but as long as our calculations are correct, it shouldn't pose us any threat. Speaking of asteroids and space rocks, we should touch upon something that isn't quite an asteroid, but sure looks like one. Traveling through the stars at a speed of 57,000 miles per hour is something called Oumuamua, which is Hawaiian for a messenger from afar arriving first. This space creation looks like something straight from a sci-fi show because it closely resembles an alien spaceship. But don't get too excited. It isn't an alien spaceship. It's just a disc-shaped object 10 times as long as it is wide and similar to a giant cigar floating in the galaxy. What is it? Well, scientists aren't entirely sure. Some think it's an asteroid that just happens to be an odd shape. Others think that maybe it's a massive solid hydrogen or cosmic dust. And of course, others think it really is a Martian vessel in disguise. Whatever it is, it's moving quickly and weirdly. In fact, its acceleration away from the Sun is one of the things that has scientists scratching their heads. While it's expected that some comets might accelerate as they travel away from the Sun after orbiting by it, because the gas from their tails gives them a boost, this giant space object doesn't have a tail, and therefore has no reason to be moving away from the massive Sun at such speeds. There was obviously something pushing the object away, and that's only led to more speculation that some sort of engine is perhaps guiding it. We still don't know what it is or where it's headed. In all likelihood, it's probably a piece of hydrogen or an enormous piece of ice. But whatever it is, it has caught the attention of many. As has Tabby's star, another space mystery that has raised a few eyebrows. Located 1,500 light-years from Earth in the Cygnus constellation, Tabby's star was named after astronomer Tabitha Boyajian, who discovered that the celestial body fluctuates in brightness from time to time. In fact, research has shown that Tabby's star loses up to 22% of its brightness at times. Stars don't usually work like that. The wild change in brightness is certainly a giant question mark with no answer. Some assume that perhaps a field of comets is smashing against the star at times, kicking up gigantic amounts of dust that could seemingly lower the star's brightness. Not surprisingly, some people think that maybe advanced alien structures are blocking the brightness of the star. While that would be exciting and maybe a bit terrifying, it's rather unlikely. Instead, the dust explanation is probably the most likely answer to this major astronomical mystery. What if you found out there was another planet in our solar system, pushed so far out of reach that we have never come across it? Would you believe it? There is a good growing chance that this fantasy could become a reality because some astronomers are certain that they are this close to proving that the fabled Planet 9 does exist. If it does, it would be one of the strangest and most shocking things ever discovered in space. Currently, many people believe that there is a Planet 9 far, far from us and the Sun. It is said to be about 10 times larger than Earth and 20 times farther from the Sun than Neptune. If such a planet does exist, it would take between 10,000 to 20,000 Earth years to make a complete orbit around the Sun. No wonder we haven't seen this planet yet. But what is the evidence that suggests Planet 9 is out there? It has to do with the gravitational effects noted on a group of icy objects that lie just beyond the orbit of Neptune. The orbits of these objects are elongated, as if something massive like Planet 9 is affecting them. Based upon those facts and a vast array of other mathematical modeling and computer simulations, some people are downright certain that Planet 9 exists. We just haven't seen it yet because of its incredible distance from us. Gas clouds in space are beautiful, captivating things that you've probably seen many times before. They are one of the greatest wonders of space and celebrated for their weird and varying forms. But one nebula in space is quite peculiar. It is called the Red Rectangle Nebula, and it rests around 2,300 light-years away from us. As you probably guessed, it has a very distinctive rectangular shape. Some have theorized that the bizarre shape is due to the fact that two stars sit at the heart of the nebula. This means that shock waves from both stars hit the dusty rings surrounding them and create an interesting formation. Meanwhile, a phenomenon called extended red emission causes the nebula to have a somewhat creepy red glow about it. So not only is this thing shaped oddly, it's colored oddly too. Strange research was done by a team at Washington State University. They located 24 planets outside of our solar system that are not only Earth-like, but actually better than Earth in some major ways. It's important to remember that the researchers weren't actually looking for life itself, but rather planets that could be a good home for it. The list of planets includes some that are larger than ours, warmer, or even wetter. Another way to get on the list is to be a planet that orbits around a star and has a longer lifespan than our Sun. As you can see, all of these things added up together create a planet that any human would be happy to call home. To create this list, researchers created a slew of features that they were looking for to consider a planet superhabitable. A superhabitable planet is one that would be able to foster a civilization like ours and might even do a better job than Earth. So what makes a planet superhabitable? What are the conditions that make life most possible? Earth served as a starting point for determining which planets may be dubbed superhabitable, although researchers allowed for some wiggle room. Planets that are rocky and orbit inside the host star's habitable zone, or the area surrounding a star that allows liquid water to exist, were included in the list. Researchers also looked for a Goldilocks zone, or a location that is neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. After setting Earth as the basis for their search, they began looking for a certain type of star. Our star, the Sun, is considered a G-type star. That means it's been around for about 4.6 billion years and will last for about 5.6 billion more. That might seem an awfully long time to you, but in the grand scheme of things, there are many other stars that last a lot longer than that. Take K-type stars, for example. They are orange dwarf stars that have a lifespan of about 20 billion to 70 billion years. A K-type star is far greater for life because it gives organisms far more time to develop and grow. 10 billion years is great, but it doesn't beat 70 billion. So when researchers began hunting for planets that could be better than Earth, they looked for stars that could last longer. Researchers also tried to find planets that were about 5 to 8 billion years old and up to 1.5 times larger than our planet. When it came to temperature, they allowed a leeway of about 5 degrees warmer with an atmosphere of about 30% oxygen. Of course, any hospitable planet would need a lot of land and a lot of water too. It would also need a substantial moon that is about 1 to 10% the size of the planet. As the team began to winnow down what made a planet so special, the number of candidates began to drop down. It's important to remember that the list of possible superhabitable planets started with more than 45,000 known exoplanets in the Milky Way. After all the work and qualifications, it was narrowed down to a group of just 24. Of all the 24 planets, none of them actually checked off every box on that superhabitable list. That's mostly because of missing data about moons, lands, plate tectonics, and more. But despite that, scientists did find one prime planet that they feel is the MVP, or most valuable planet. So which planet earned the lucky honors of being better than Earth when it comes to being hospitable? That would be KIC 9832379. The planet is about 1.8 times bigger than Earth and only 5.5 billion years old. It orbits around the K-type star known as KOI 5715 and was discovered by the Kepler Space Telescope in a star field within the Cygnus constellation. Based upon all the research and the many attributes it holds, KIC 9832379 would probably make a splendid home for any number of organisms. However, we will never know for sure because it rests about 2.964 light-years away from us. If there is no chance that we will ever visit this planet and others on the list, what is the point of locating them? Why did the research team at Washington State University waste its time if this was leading nowhere? The truth is that this list was an exercise for future powerful telescopes that are being created and going online in the next few years. The most famous of these is NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, which just launched, along with the European Space Agency's Plato Space Telescope and NASA's LUVOIR Space Observatory. The researchers at Washington State saw this collection of super-hospitable planets as a to-do list for these new telescopes. In other words, they were targets for them to look at, deep space locations to focus on as they get up and running and push the limits of modern telescopes. With the next space telescopes coming up, we will get more information, so it is important to select some targets, said Dirk Schulze-McCouche, the geobiologist and professor with Washington State University, who led the study. For years, people have wondered about an Earth 2.0, a planet like ours that could possibly become our home if worse came to worst and we had to travel somewhere new. The sad reality is, this will likely never happen. While there is a chance we could possibly terraform Mars or set up colonies on the moon, the chances of us finding a planet we can actually travel to is close to zero. The team at Washington State University knows that, and they were aware that they weren't looking for a home for Earthlings. Instead, they were looking to prove that as special as Earth is, it isn't the best place in all the universe for life. Schulze-McCouche put it best when he said, "We have a great number of complex and diverse life forms, and many that can survive in extreme environments. It is good to have an adaptable life, but that doesn't mean that we have the best of everything. In fact, when the research of superhabitable planets was completed, Earth ranked 25th at the bottom of the list. So it's safe to say that we can no longer claim Earth as the best planet in the universe. Now we know of at least 24 others that could create a comfier, healthier home. Unfortunately, they all happen to be out of reach. Unlike Earth, the planet Jupiter has more than one moon. In fact, Jupiter has at least 79 different moons, and Europa is just one of them. Europa is the 6th largest moon in the Jovian system and is about 90% the size of our own moon that orbits Earth. Recently, the Hubble Space Telescope made a discovery that shocked and excited NASA. After years of suspicion and speculation, Hubble detected water vapor in the atmosphere of Europa. This massive discovery gives scientists a much better understanding of Jupiter's moons and offers the idea that maybe, just maybe, Europa has conditions that are hospitable for life. If that were the case, it means that future scientific missions related to the Jovian system will have a strong focus on finding life. Like all things related to scientific space discoveries, this huge find raises even more questions than answers. Observations of water on Europa have been made before, but all previous discoveries of water on the Moon have been associated with plumes of water erupting through the ice that coats the planet. These plumes of water are similar to geysers found on Earth, although the plumes are thought to shoot about 60 miles into the sky. However, these new findings show amounts of water vapor spread over a larger area of Europa. All said and done, the vapor has been spotted many times over the last 2 decades, which suggests a long-term presence in Europa's atmosphere. Why is this so shocking? Well, it's not just because finding water in any part of the solar system is cause for celebration. The Europa finding is even more surprising because the Moon is so darn cold. The daytime high on Europa is about -260 degrees. That's partly because the Moon reflects sunlight off of itself, preventing it from warming up much. Yet the Moon is still producing a persistent amount of water vapor, something that is making scientists wonder what other tricks Europa has up its sleeve. Images of Europa from satellites have been captured several times. In fact, Europa is quite popular among scientists and astronomers. In the 1970s, NASA's twin Pioneer and twin Voyager spacecraft provided the first close-up pictures of a damaged, frozen surface. The Galileo mission, which took place from 1995 to 2003, provided much more information on Jupiter and its moons. In addition to the Hubble Space Telescope and other observatories located near or on Earth, several spacecraft have gone past Europa as they made their way to other destinations. However, these views are constrained since they have all been on or near the ecliptic, a plane on which the Sun, planets, and many of the moons of the solar system circle. Now you can see why such incredible photographs of Europa and its water vapors are so special. For years, it had all been hiding in plain sight, just waiting for NASA and scientists on Earth to discover it. This incredible find was made by Lorenz Roth of the KTH Royal Institute of Technology, Space and Plasma Physics in Sweden. Roth made his discovery by examining data collected by the Hubble telescope over multiple years. He did so by using the Telescope Imaging Spectrograph, STIS, which allows astronomers to assess the chemical elements that make up a planet or moon's atmosphere. Roth was able to quantify the amount of molecular oxygen in Europa's atmosphere based on these measurements. While that might not sound like very exciting work for you and me, it allowed Roth to stumble upon this incredible discovery. While finding water vapors on Europa is without a doubt a major deal, it's not the first time that one of Jupiter's many moons revealed its affinity for liquid. Just months ago, it was confirmed that water vapors also exist on another of Jupiter's moons, Ganymede. Located 500 million miles from the Sun, the water on Ganymede is frozen solid in temperatures that reach as low as -300 degrees Fahrenheit or -184 degrees Celsius. It's long been assumed that if an ocean exists on Ganymede, it would have to reside some 100 miles below the surface due to its frigid climate. Despite the bone-chilling temperature, it was determined that when the charged particles from the Sun reach the Moon, it's enough to turn the ice into water vapors. Still, the news of water on Europa is a bit more surprising simply because Europa's surface is generally more consistently cold, rarely ever peaking above -260 degrees Fahrenheit. Finding water vapors on the Moon means that Europa immediately shoots to the top of the list for places that scientists want to explore. And in just a few years, those startling revelations may come to pass. That's because Europa and the other moons surrounding Jupiter are set to be explored within a decade. The ESA's Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, otherwise known as JUICE, is set to launch in 2022 and will arrive in the Jovian system in 2031. JUICE is a major project that is being created to really understand Jupiter's entire system so much better. The centerpiece of JUICE will be a powerful probe that will carry instruments comprising of the most powerful sensing equipment ever created. It will fly to Europa and many of the other moons and catalog what it finds. Specifically, JUICE is looking for any more signs that life could have existed or still does. For years, not much has been known about Jupiter as it existed far past our reach in the icy depths of space. But these latest discoveries on the planet's moons have shown that this is a section of the solar system that we should be paying close attention to. Soon enough, we will get more answers, but until then, we will have to keep hoping that once we do finally explore Europa, it will be worth the wait. New Horizons is a project created by NASA all the way back in the 1980s. It was put together with one purpose: to finally get a better grasp on Pluto and see how this bizarre little chunk of ice worked. The $720 million project might have been dreamed up by the brilliant minds at NASA 30 years ago, but it wasn't until the early 2000s that it was officially given approval and a launch date. New Horizons took to the stars in January 2006, given the task of the first-ever flyby of Pluto. Ever since the dwarf planet was first discovered back in the 1930s, many questions have swirled around it. A black hole is a portion of space in which gravity is so intensely strong that not even light can escape from it. Because the matter has been crammed into such a small space, gravity is extremely powerful. Now it's a fact that you've never seen a black hole yourself because, well, it's actually impossible. People cannot see black holes because no light can escape them. They are essentially undetectable. Space telescopes equipped with specialized equipment can aid in the discovery of black holes, but even that is an incredibly difficult task for even the most advanced technology. Special instruments can see how stars in close proximity to black holes behave differently from other nearby stars. Stellar black holes, which are those that have masses up to 20 times more than our Sun, are formed when the core of a massive star collapses in on itself. When this happens, a supernova occurs. A supernova is a star that explodes and sends a portion of its mass into space. Supermassive black holes, according to scientists, were created at the same time as the galaxy in which they reside. As you can tell, black holes are profoundly complicated and intricate objects in space and require a lot of studying. NASA has been studying them for years now, and yet truly learning about black holes has never gotten easier for the mere fact that no sort of instruments could get even remotely close to them because of their distance from Earth. Until recently, getting a shot of a black hole has always been downright impossible. Now NASA has gotten a good look at a black hole, and achieving such a goal was no small feat. The image depicts the shadow cast by the supermassive black hole at the center of Messier 87, or M87, an elliptical galaxy 55 million light-years from Earth. This black hole has a mass that is 6.5 billion times that of our massive Sun. To snap this shot, 8 ground-based radio telescopes across the world worked in tandem as if they were one giant telescope the size of our entire planet to catch its shadow. The Event Horizon Telescope, EHT, is an international network of radio telescopes in Chile, Mexico, Spain, Hawaii, Arizona, and the Antarctic that has been working for years to gain a good look at a black hole using a totally new approach. In addition to the EHT results, numerous NASA satellites were part of a broad effort to observe the black hole using other wavelengths of light, which was coordinated by the EHT's Multi-Wavelength Working Group. The Chandra X-ray Observatory, Nuclear Spectroscopic Telescope Array, and Neil Gehrels' Swift Observatory Space Telescope projects, all of which are sensitive to distinct types of X-ray light, pointed their telescopes at the M87 black hole around the same time as the EHT in April 2017. During the EHT observations, NASA's Fermi Gamma Ray Space Telescope was also looking for changes in gamma-ray emission from M87. Data from these missions and other telescopes may be used to help figure out what was going on if EHT detected changes in the structure of the black hole's environment. While staring at M87's black hole, the global team collected more than a petabyte of data using this collaborative effort. It took scientists 2 years to put together the snapshot we have today, our first actual look at a black hole. We need to learn a lot about black holes, and especially supermassive black holes, which have masses that are more than 1 million suns together. Scientists have determined that each large galaxy contains a supermassive black hole at its center. The one at the center of the Milky Way is called Sagittarius A, and it has a mass equal to 4 million suns. As you can imagine, a black hole of that size would do a lot of damage to Earth and everything around it. In fact, we wouldn't stand a chance if a black hole decided to get close to us. But will that ever happen? Should we be staying awake at night, worried that we are about to be swallowed whole by one of these monstrous deep space enigmas? By blind luck alone, it's very unlikely the Earth will ever come even remotely close to a black hole. The black hole at the center of our Milky Way is 26,000 light-years away. So even if it was chomping up planets right now, we wouldn't even notice. But it's not. In fact, scientists think it's actually not affecting the planets or stars surrounding it. Remember, a black hole, like a star, is a concentration of mass that other things orbit around. So there's a chance that a galaxy could continue like normal with a black hole in it. However, a supermassive black hole would be a whole different story, but it needs a galaxy much bigger than ours to thrive, eat, and grow. So we are safe from black holes and supermassive black holes, at least for now. Our closest spiral galaxy, named Andromeda, already has 2 supermassive black holes in it. The galaxy is flying towards it at an astonishing 110 kilometers per second, and when it finally smashes into the Milky Way, there is a chance that they will become one black hole that would be 100 million times larger than the mass of the Sun. When that happens, the chances of everything around the black hole, including our galaxy, will likely be completely consumed. The sheer mass and strength of it will essentially crush everything and all forms of matter. But of course, that's 4 billion years from now. So you and everyone you know are safe from this catastrophe that awaits far, far in the future. And keep in mind, our Sun is set to explode in about 5 billion years, so our galaxy will be in its twilight years at that point anyway. The truth is that black holes are mysterious, dangerous, and still one of the biggest question marks floating through the stars. We may not know everything there is to know about them yet, but one thing is for sure. We don't have to worry about them coming close in the near future. Launched from Cape Canaveral on August 12, 2018, the Parker Solar Probe had one goal: make 24 up-close orbits of the star and study the Sun's atmosphere, also known as the corona. Right now, the probe is doing just that, flying by the Sun in ways no craft has ever done before. 3.7 million miles. That's how close Parker is getting to the Sun. That might seem like a huge distance away, but it's incredibly close compared to anything that's come before it. In fact, it's 8 times closer than any previous spacecraft, and nearly 9 times closer than the planet Mercury. So, what is the purpose of the probe, aside from breaking records? It was made to study the heat and energy from the Sun and how they move through the corona. Parker was also created to study the solar winds that come from the Sun's surface to see what accelerates them and where they originate from. Simply put, the Parker Solar Probe is there to answer questions about the Sun, solar physics, and solar winds that scientists have been asking for more than 50 years. In fact, back in the 1950s, a probe like this was proposed, but as you can imagine, science hadn't caught up with the dreams of scientists, and there was no feasible way to create a spacecraft that could withstand the heat from the Sun. It's the solar winds that are the heart and soul of Parker's mission. Solar winds are a collection of charged particles that stream from the sun and flow past Earth at speeds of more than 1 million miles per hour, or 1.6 million kilometers per hour. These winds can affect our planet's magnetic field and create something known as space weather. Space weather is the energy that courses through space and can impact or even destroy our satellites. Our man-made satellites are vital for all of humanity, powering everything from television to cell phones to weather reports and plane trips. Now you can imagine why understanding solar winds and space weather is so important. One of the craziest things about solar winds is that there is no discernible cause for them. There is no organized wind close to the sun's surface, but they are still being ejected from it somehow. You have to remember that the sun isn't like Earth. It doesn't have a solid surface. Instead, the sun is a molten, churning mass of burning heat that is kept together by the immense gravity of its core. The sun is so large and so dense that anything even remotely close to it is grabbed hold of by it. Yet somehow, these solar winds are able to escape from the sun's gravity and then build up speed that allows them to jet through space at millions of miles per hour. Scientists believe there is some unknown factor that is accelerating these massive waves of wind, and the Parker probe is in the business of finding out exactly what it is. Then there are the questions behind the sun's corona, which is something else the Parker probe is digging into. The corona is essentially the atmosphere of the sun. It has an incredibly wide radius that reaches out millions of miles. The area in which the sun's gravity and magnetic field suck in anything around it is called the alpha critical surface. Scientists have long known of this point of no return, but until now, they could never figure out just how far away from the sun it travels. Previously, scientists have thought that the critical surface was somewhere between 4.3 to 8.6 million miles from the surface of the sun, or about 10 to 20 times the radius. But as it turns out, Parker has shown that it's about 8.1 million miles above the sun. The Parker probe is looking into the corona because this is where we will learn most about the solar winds flowing from the star's surface. For instance, it already learned a lot about the corona.